welcome to episode 226 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. Really glad to have you with us on this post-Thanksgiving episode. Hope everybody had a great holiday, wonderful, restful time with lots of food and family and refreshing fun. And now you're back to your bar studies. So there you go. Doesn't last long, does it? We are glad to have you here with us. If this is your first time on the podcast, welcome. We come to you every week to talk about all things bar exam related. And we're at an interesting time in the bar exam season right now. We've just wrapped up the results from July 2018. The quick version or summary or recap of all of that is it was a train wreck. Really, really bad, and finished up with the biggest disaster of all. The California results came out with the worst reported pass rate in 65 years. So 16% pass rate for repeat bar takers, only a 41% pass rate overall. And if you want to know more about the California bar exam and the results, check out my episode 225, last week's episode. I do a fairly deep dive on the numbers, but also talk about some things that I think need to change in order to fix what I call a broken system. So if you're a Cal bar taker, you might want to check that episode out. That was 225. Now, if you'd like to watch today's episode, I want to let you know that all of our podcasts are available in video and audio format. You can check out the video by going to celebrationbarreview.com/226. That's the episode number for today, and you can see everything there, and there are show notes as well. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can do that on Apple iTunes, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, a lot of places where podcasts are syndicated. And again, there's all the show notes connected up with that. And then we have our archives of all of the podcast episodes going back to the very first episode. You can find those on our website. Just look for the podcast tab at the top of the page. So lots of different places to get your podcast fix. In any event, today I have one of the most special interviews probably that I've done in years and years and years. I suspect this will become something of an instant classic, not because of me, but because of the person that we're going to be talking to. I'm going to be speaking with a man who took the California bar exam for over 14 years. He started in 2004, passed in July 2018. He took the exam more than 20 times, and he passed after all of those years and all of those attempts. And it is a remarkable story from an absolutely remarkable man. And I know you're going to want to stick around for that, regardless of what bar exam jurisdiction you're in. If you're feeling a little, post-Thanksgiving kind of down and in the dumps and, oh my God, I got to go back and study, maybe you're a bar repeater, it's really tough to do that. And I think that this interview is going to inspire you incredibly. It inspired me just talking to Glenn, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Now, before we jump into the interview with Glenn for today, I do want to let all of you know that we've got a very special live training opportunity coming up this Thursday night. It's November 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. That would be 4 o'clock Pacific time. The training is titled Do Something Different. Make the next bar exam your last bar exam. And during this training, we're going to look at the steps that successful bar takers follow in order to pass the bar. It's a step-by-step roadmap. We're going to go through each of those steps, show you what you've got to do, supplement it with case studies of successful students who've used each of those steps, and then we'll do a live Q&A at the end to answer any questions that you've got. Now, participation in this training is completely free, but you do need to register in advance, and you can do that in one of several ways. If you're here on the video podcast, just scroll to the show notes and you will see a link to claim your free seat. Or you can do the same thing in the show notes for the audio. Or you can go to our website at celebrationbarreview.com/webinar. So that's /webinar, and register there, claim your seat for Thursday night, the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, if that date and time do not work for you, we also offer an on-demand daily version of the same content. The only difference, of course, is that there's no live Q&A at the end, but you're invited to send your questions to me through the webinar, and I'll reply by email. So no matter how you get this information, we think it's life-changing and important for you to participate. It's why we make it available for free, and we really want you to join us. So hope you'll come out and check it out, November 29th, 7 p.m. We've got a big crowd already registered, so I'm looking forward to a great session and lively Q&A at the end. So I hope you'll join us for that. Do something different. Make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Now, when it comes to doing something different, the story that you're about to hear, Glenn Winters, is a bit of an anomaly. Glenn came to us many years ago, and he was having a lot of difficulty on the exam. He wasn't even close to a passing score in the early years of his attempts. And after a lot of work, one of the things that Glenn discovered, and you'll hear him talk about it in the interview, was that his medical condition, a condition called amblyopia, which we know as lazy eye, was actually more dangerous than any of us recognized. It was actually hurting his ability to process information and to take the exam. And so one of the steps that Glenn took to do something different was to get accommodations from the bar examiners. And that was not an easy process, but he did it. And as he got those accommodations, his scores started to go up. But each time that Glenn took the exam and fell short, he got a little closer to the top. And we continued to do something different for him each and every exam, trying to find the next piece that would fit into the puzzle for him to get him over the top. This was a very long, very difficult process. Glenn worked incredibly hard, and he was an absolute gem of a student. He never lost his confidence. He never lost his enthusiasm. There were times that were just bone-crushingly hard. As you'll hear, he came very close to passing several times and just couldn't quite get there. He got into second read, but didn't get all the way over. When the California Bar changed its format and structure from a 3-day test to a 2-day test and switched to 50% value on the multi-state instead of 30%, we felt like that was the time that Glenn had a real opportunity to push forward. And so Glenn made the decision to really work on his studies, to make a big effort to do something different. And the result, as you're going to hear, is that he passed in July 2018 after more than 20 tries, after more than 14 years. His story is a story both of perseverance, but it's also a story of strategic work, step by step, without giving up, without quitting, without becoming so discouraged that he couldn't go forward. And I think as you listen to Glenn talk, you're going to realize what an extraordinary accomplishment not only it was to pass in an exam when the repeat pass rate, as I say, was 16%, but for people who are over 20 times taking the exam, there are only a handful of those people that ever pass. I've been very fortunate to work with a few of them in my 30-year career, but these are very special stories. And so I don't want to keep you from it any longer. I want to share with you a really remarkable, very humble, very genuine guy, someone that I'm very proud to call my student and my friend, Glenn Winter. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Students. And today we have a story that I have waited a very long time to tell, and a student that I'm just so delighted to introduce to you. Welcome to Glenn Winter, newest member of the California Bar. Hi, Glenn. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Doing good.
I bet you are doing good. I don't even know that good describes this, does it?
No, it's hard to describe. The feeling is relief. It's just hard to describe, but it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
Well, you and I know what our audience doesn't, so I think we need to just sort of let the cat out of the bag right away. When did you first take the California Bar exam?
First time was 2004 in July.
Okay.
Long time ago.
So we are talking about a 14-year odyssey for you. You didn't sit for every administration of the exam, took some time off, but do you recall how many times you took the test?
Between 25 and 27, a lot, yeah.
Okay.
Just let's say a lot.
Okay. So I want to be clear to our audience. You're now looking at somebody who's been through this exam more than 20 times, and you passed in July 2018 when the pass rate for repeat bar takers was 16%, and the repeat pass rate for people that have taken the exam double digits was less than 1%. Good doesn't even begin to get to it, does it? What a journey this has been for you.
It has been. And when I first started, I didn't know what was wrong. I graduated from high school with honors. I always excelled in math. I had issues with reading, and I didn't know why. I was diagnosed with amblyopia when I was 12, and I didn't think anything of it. I could have had surgery to correct it, but didn't know. During the process of taking the exam, I never could finish. I would panic. I never could finish the exam. And obviously that's bad. I would get high scores in some essays. I had a 75, had an 80 on a CIPRO question once. But then the next question I would get 50 because I had a half hour left to complete the question, obviously, because it took me too long to write the question beforehand. That was an issue with me. I didn't know what was causing it. Maybe I was ADHD. I mean, it seems to be going around now. Who knows what? I didn't know what it was. So I started looking into it. Long story short, I ended up with headaches in the hospital one day. And they did like an MRI. I was sent to a doctor who questioned me and says, you have amblyopia. I says, yeah, I had it when I was 12. I knew I had this. He says, and somehow the exam came up. It wasn't for me. And he said, he brought it up, what's going on in your life and stuff. And I told him I've been taking this exam. And he says, you can get extra time for that. And I said, really? He says, yeah, you have amblyopia. There's a visual accommodation. So lo and behold, I got referred, this is all through my insurance, to a neuro-ophthalmologist. And the neuro-ophthalmologist said, yes, you should be getting extra time for the exam. And this was in 2014. This was 10 years later.
Right.
And I would say the last 6 to 7 examinations, I've been knocking on the door of this exam because I had the time to finish and was able to, that, along with other things we can talk about, got me through. But yeah, I was not able to pass this exam previously. It was not possible. I couldn't finish the exam because I only read with my right eye. If you can see, my left eye is kind of lazy. I have perfect depth perception, but no convergence. So my left eye just kind of rags while my right eye reads. So I have prisms in my glasses now that allows me to kind of trick the eyesight. If I had surgery, it would create a possible double vision at this age when they could have corrected it. So long story short, this is what we did, and it now put me in the ball game where I wasn't before. I wanted to provide that information to explain that. Yeah. If I had taken it this many results, I probably wouldn't have done it because I wasn't gaining anywhere. I discovered that there was that problem I was having.
I think it's important to understand that this journey has been about finding various things and then discovering barriers and figuring out how to get past that barrier and moving to the next one and the next one and the next one. And for you, this barrier of the physical was a big deal. And when you uncovered that for the exam and started to request accommodations was when we started to see your scores go up. There was clearly a big jump at that point, but it wasn't quite enough. I mean, you said knocking on the door, and you came really close a few times in that period of time, but never quite enough. And I think a lot of people would probably have given up long before you did. Can you talk a little bit about why you never gave up, why you hung in there and continued to work?
I think because I know I'm intelligent and I'm able, obviously I had high scores, an 80 is a very good score on this exam. I don't even know if it's, so having 75, 80s, in each facet of the exam, I got high scores. I would get 75 on a PT. I would get a 75 or 80 on an essay here or there. And the multiple choice, I usually perform pretty well on that and pass that. So it was just putting all three facets together. I come from a background where my family values education. Failure is not an option to me. It's just, I don't give up either. But failure is how I believe we learn. And I learned something from each exam that I use to my benefit the next time. And I think I mentioned to you, I don't know what to do now. This is success. What do I do? What do I learn from this? But yeah, I was learning along the way.
Your success. Let's be real here. I think it's important to share with our audience that you and I worked together for a very long period of time. And there were moments of extraordinary discouragement because you were coming close. But even before that, when we just couldn't figure out what was happening, and then it started to break open for you, and step by step, little bit by little bit, and you just kept at it. And one of the things I could sort of count on was that if you hadn't passed, you were not going to give up. You were not going to quit. You did take some exams off. I think you and I talked about the other day that there were a few exams where you didn't sit in July because you wanted to have a holiday season that wasn't crazy studying for the bar, right?
I didn't want to have the disappointment of seeing my name not on the pass list. To be honest with you, that was part of it too. And I know a lot of your listeners will, what that feels like right now or in the past. And this exam, I just knew there was a way to crack it. And I wasn't going about the right way. And I was thinking this morning about a food pyramid and how that's kind of been inverted over the years, how you had milk and meat on the top and now it's inverted. I really think, and you're onto it too with your writing style as well, that there's got to be a different approach. What's out there is not working. And for me, it was practicing the exam. It was actually not writing essays. I didn't write any essays for this last exam. All I did was I was practicing the looking for the different conflicts and like you don't like the word issue, but issues, or what if I was missing something, I would go back and instead of spending a day on a subject, I may spend 2 or 3 days on the subject, but until I got it. And I think the practice was more important than maybe at the bottom of the pyramid should be memorization.
Absolutely. And you weren't memorizing. You used photo reading, correct?
Yeah, I did. And I believe I've been meditating since I was 14. It's a big, I don't do it every day. I try to, but during the exam time, it was almost a daily routine for me. And, to get into that mode wasn't hard for me. And I understand the fact that we actually know everything we see. It's there in the subconscious is drawing it out. And so I did do photo reading for the MBE and for the essays. I was constantly doing that. And I think that's very helpful if they believe that works for them. I think so. I think it works.
Yeah. And one of the questions that you and I had to discover, and we went to Paul Sheely at Learning Strategies, we weren't sure, because of your eye condition, we weren't sure whether or not you would be able to photo read. Getting the blip page, seeing that sort of, soft focus was not something that was really necessarily possible. And one of the things we discovered was, in fact, you could do that even with really effectively one eye doing most of the work.
You had mentioned earlier about, with me, it was psychological. And I think getting over this hump, one of the things I did, I don't know if we talked about it, but the last 2 times, the last 3 times actually, I went in with an attitude of, I was very confident. I think it's important. This exam is very intimidating. And, they'll say 1 hour remaining, and it's just like, what was that? It breaks your concentration. There's a lot going on in that exam. And to go in there with, oh, please don't test corpse. Oh, you turn the page. I don't want to see this. No, I was ready. Like, please give it to me. I want to see this question. I think it's important for students to be prepared. If I wasn't performing on the multiple choice, at least 70% for me, and looking at an essay, knowing what to do before going in the exam, then I wasn't prepared, and I wouldn't have that confidence. And once I got to that point, and I think taking a year, again, everyone's different. This is my story, but it may relate to other people. I think there's too much information in this exam to just say, okay, you got 2 months, go for it. You've been doing it for a while. And when I took a year off for the July 17 exam, between 16 and 17, is where I really made that move. And I missed it by 0.47 points on the first read. They don't round up. I was told to appeal it. As you know, I did appeal, but I tried to let that go, and I was encouraged not to, but I knew I had to, because, and I want to express this to also your listeners, is we are responsible for our own actions, and you're not going to be sitting with us in the exam. I'm only there with my earplugs on, and it's our responsibility to correct what's going on with us or what we're not doing right. I was scared to look at the subjects I was weaker at. I didn't believe that they weren't fun to look at. I hated them. But I had to like face that. I guess facing the Darth Vader in the cave, Star Wars. You have to face. I had to face that. I get strong in these subjects, and it's my responsibility. I can't blame the bar examiners. I'm just a number to them, and they wrote a beautiful letter. When you pass, it's amazing about our ethical responsibility, and hopefully you'll do pro bono work. And I mean, it's not about making money and all that. It's about giving back. And it showed me you have a great mission, the bar examiners. I had never had a fight with them. And if I had gone down that road and appealed and got appeal, it would have gotten in the way of my goal.
I think that's a really good point, that your approach to this was very positive, in spite of, beyond just giving up. I think most people would have become embittered. You came incredibly close, didn't make it. Your multi-state score kept going up and up and up and up. Well over 144. And, it was just like, how close are we going to come again? How close? And you just kept this amazing equilibrium that said, you know what? I'm disappointed, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep pushing. What can I, as you said, what can I learn? How can I improve? And so you were constantly looking for improvement in what you were doing. And I probably learned more from you than you learned from me, to be perfectly honest, Glenn. I think that you demonstrated what I think of. If I wanted an attorney to represent me, I want somebody who just won't give up and who is relentlessly looking to improve. I mean, that is the essence of what a great attorney should be. And we knew, you and I both knew, that you were capable of practicing law. That was never really the issue. The question was, how do we demonstrate that on the exam? And so we worked through a lot of things. We worked through photo reading and meditation. We worked through the writing process. We talked about the timing and getting the accommodations and how to make all of that work in a way that was meaningful. And your family was part of this process as well. I know your wife was totally into this.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and one of the things I mentioned to you, she just has a small business, and her main employee said to her, tell Glenn congratulations, but also congratulations to you. And, it's so important. It's kind of like I'm in denial, and I'm sure other applicants, I don't see how it affects family members. And yeah. I know you have a video and something to the family in your course, and it is important. It's really hard on family and friends. And, yes, they don't know what we're going through, but, it is a very selfish journey, no matter how we put it. And I tried not make it not that way. And I have to say, I didn't put oodles of hours and put 4 hours a day. I want to stress that it doesn't have to be this a drudgery or something to endure. You can make it fun. You could do it little bits at a time. There's a lot of material, but at the end of the day, they're only testing a little bit. So it's not everything. And yes, you kind of have to know. I believe it's the practice where I was focusing my time, because I have a family, I have a job, I was working. I only took a week off before the exam. Didn't have a lot of time to sit to do that. And I've also gotten feedback from other people that having less time in their life to do this exam has been beneficial than having more time available. Yeah. And being able to procrastinate. What I did was to improve my score. And ultimately, that's what I was learning along the way. It's like, how do when I sit down, am I doing something? I ask myself, is this what I'm doing now? Is this beneficial? Or am I just reading an outline that's not going to have that effect? But of course, you got to look at the outlines and know the material.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think, the task expands to fill the time. And you had been through the material so many times that obviously you could get lost in just doing it mindlessly. And you weren't doing that. You were trying to work through it pretty for a specific purpose, and that showed up. So I think that's awesome. Well, I'm curious. I just really want to know what it was like when you got the results, when you went on the computer on Friday night. I assume Friday night you went and looked.
It was Friday. Okay. The day was very stressful. I had just moved, and we had a lot of chaos at the house, and it was just like, it was ending on a very stressful note. So I says, what better time to go like this, right, than right now? And, I thought I had passed, but, I thought I had passed last year also. So, yeah. But I really did thought I passed. So I put my number in. I guess you put your applicant number and then the file number. I don't know which one's which. And I usually reverse them or something. I'm a little dyslexic as well from the amblyopia. So I put in the numbers wrong. But at first, I didn't know that. So the first thing I got back was your name didn't appear, which I'm very familiar with. And I looked and I said, okay, I put the right number on the top. I didn't mix up the applicant number and the file number. But I did have the wrong two digits that were running together on the bottom one. So I said, okay, I'll put that number in, which has happened before. Because, again, I tend to not write the right number down. And then it came up. And I was expecting something to say, congratulations, you've passed. It doesn't say that. It says your name appears on the pass list. But it had my full name, my middle name. So it was and my numbers were there. And it was, I did cry. Not as much as I anticipated I would. And then I called my wife and I said, I passed. She said, passed what? And I told her, and she lost it. She cried, and I called my parents, who are both still living. And um, that was really nice. Not everyone's still around, but most people are. And it was very nice. And again, it's surreal. It's still surreal. And everyone's asking me, what do you want to do now? And I'm just enjoying it right now. I'm just enjoying it. I do know I want to give back. So that's part of what I think. That was what was so nice when the bar sent the letter. It was, this is where we're supposed to be. Yeah, we're officers of the court. I will be when I'm sworn in. But, there's an obligation, an ethical obligation we have, and to give back, to do pro bono work, or to give back to the community. And that's what comes to mind. I don't know why, but it does.
Well, you're giving back by doing this interview. I will tell you right now that this will be a heavily watched discussion. It is an extraordinary accomplishment, Glenn, as you well know. But I think a lot of people will be looking at this going, oh, how did he do that? And the answer is, it's nothing magic. It's just hard work. It's perseverance. It's being able to look at it. Where's the barrier? How can I work on this? I
was told when I went to law school that the dean says, okay, you got to lock yourself in a room. You don't have a relationship if you want to pass this exam. That was day one. And, I kind of was in my subconscious that this was like this extraordinary thing, that it was so hard. And it's not. It's a test. You practice the test. You do the practice questions. You do a lot of them. And they repeat it. Now, yes, they don't repeat it always in the same way. When they tested dormant commerce clause, I love that subject. Some people hate it. I love it. I was glad it was there. I'm just interested in that. Some other people are interested in something else, but other subjects. But it was basically doing enough of the practice and being able to perform, being confident, being kind of arrogant only on the exam, not in real life, but because there's a certain mindset I believe you have to have for this exam. But it is not as difficult as they make it out. It just takes a certain preparation, and everyone's different. I'm different than someone else. Someone else may have to write. Someone else may have to do more MBEs. What I would stress is find what your strengths are, what makes you learn, and do that. And everyone's different. And that's why I think this cookie cutter approach that a lot of the courses have, it doesn't work, because everyone's different. You kind of have to, you were always open to that. You were always open to look in different ways. And for me, and I'm sure for other students as well, but I want to also thank you for being there for me. Because what you asked me the question, how did you persevere? It wasn't always family members pushing me. People like you that said, don't give up. My friends who are also attorneys said, whatever you do, Glenn, don't give up. Those voices are in my head. That really helped me. And I want to let you know that really helped.
That's great. Well, to say that I'm proud of you really doesn't say it enough. To say that I'm thrilled for you, I'm sure doesn't express the depth of my excitement. It literally made my day, week, weekend, probably made my year to see you on the pass list. I can't think of anybody that's more deserving than you, that's worked harder for a longer period of time than you have. And I know that many people in our audience today are discouraged and disappointed. The California bar is a beast. It is so incredibly difficult. But folks, I want you to know that it is possible. You can succeed. You don't have to give up. You don't have to quit. You don't have to roll over and say, I can't do it. It can be done. And I think, Glenn, you're such an example of that. You're not 22 years old. You're not in perfect health. You didn't graduate top of your class at Harvard Law School. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we would say, this guy would never pass the bar, and look at you, you did it. After all of those barriers and hurdles. And what an outstanding testimony to your character and to your family and your friends and your support. I am really, really honored that we were part of the journey. It's one of the highlights of my professional career, to be perfectly honest. So I think you should enjoy it for a while before you decide what you're going to do. I mean, I think you should just enjoy the fact that you don't have to pick up your books and start studying again. I mean, that's got to be such a great feeling, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to get a hobby now.
I know. Yeah, find a hobby, man.
Go fishing and play golf more. No, yeah, it's going to be nice. But I think what you said about the students out there, it's doable. It's doable. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. It's a tough exam. There's no, it can be done, and it's a fair playing field. It really is, and you have just as much a chance as anyone else out there taking it, and you can do it. I did it, and I know others people can do it.
That's awesome. Well, listen, Glenn, thanks so much for being willing to share your story, to be this open and transparent. I promise you will hear from people. There will be lots of people that want to congratulate you and find out more about your story. But we wish you all the best. I know that your spirit is one of a generous spirit, and you give back. And I hope that we'll continue to see you around and supporting our existing students. But I want to join everybody on our team and everybody in our course and our students in congratulating you on really a remarkable, extraordinary accomplishment. And we could not be happier for you.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming on and being with us today.
Thank you.
Well, that's our episode for today. I'm not even sure what I can tell you after you've heard that, because Glenn is so remarkable. His story is so amazing. And if you're feeling discouraged, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling angry about the process or the system, if you feel like you just can't do it, I really hope you'll use Glenn's example of what it means to just stay with it and to keep after it. It's such an extraordinary accomplishment and a great thing in his life, and I hope that it's an inspiration for you no matter where you are in your journey. Now, I do want to remind you before we sign off today that we're going to be showing stories like Glenn's and talking about what it takes to be successful by doing something different, making the next bar exam your last bar exam. It's free live training. It comes up on Thursday, November 29th, 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 o'clock Pacific time. You do need to register in advance. We're filling up. We've got a big crowd already registered for this training. And you can register on the show notes or by going to celebrationbarreview.com/webinar. Well, thanks everybody for being with us this week. I hope that you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. We'll be back to you again next week with more great stories and interviews and information as we begin to point towards the 2019 exams now. Hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you along the extra mile and on the pass list. Bye-bye.